Just because we have limited time, could we just keep this to stuff I've written that you have?
No. All right, Jesse. So you wanted to call him for a while. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, thanks to Emma. She's going to come on my podcast, Blocked and Reported. I appreciate that. It takes some guts to do that, given our disagreements. But I'm basically just like calling in because I committed to doing so. I'm a little bit.
You don't feel. You should not feel obligated whatsoever. I'm perfectly willing to. I didn't consider it a commitment. I wasn't anticipating it. So don't feel in any way obligated whatsoever.
I think it's okay. I do feel obligated. I said I would do it. I want to honor that. But I feel like
Jesse Singal is a journalist writing for places including New York Magazine, New York Times, and the New York Times has been really transphobic recently, I believe, from what I've seen. As it says here, on Wikipedia, so don't take my word for it, but Singal's writing on transgender issues has attracted controversy, particularly in his 2018 cover story, The Atlantic, When Children Say They're Trans.
Twitter causes a lot of division and drama, and I've contributed to it. I just think there's probably
I would agree with that.
I think there's probably a fair amount we agree on some of the stuff you guys discuss, including just how bad it is to try to ban youth gender medicine. That was something I wrote about in May of 2020, before it was a national story. I also think there's probably some areas where there's a little bit of disagreement, but they tend to be edge cases. Just stuff where there's probably going to have to be some, debate and compromise. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know. I've been writing about science for a decade, and
what do you mean by youth gender medicine?
But here's the thing.
Clarify that, please,
Jesse. I just want to make something clear. I don't care where we agree on. That is, I can't tell you how irrelevant it is to me what we agree on, whether it's in the context of trans stuff, whether it's in the context of any other politics. Wholly irrelevant. I don't care what kind of person you are. I don't care what your belief system is. None of that is relevant. The reason why I think you are toxic and at best extremely unhelpful in this area is that you distort the importance of this issue, and are so fervent at pointing out this minutia that I consider minutia in the face of what is actually happening on the ground. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. That's not you, but it's an analogy, and it's an extreme one. But that's
hey, just because we have limited time, could we just keep this to stuff I've written that you have?
No,
because I don't. Because
I'm sorry, I have to jump in. I love this. No, I've never had so much more respect for Sam. Jesse Singal, I love it. No. Jesse Singal is known to have written a lot about detransitioning and trans care for youth and stuff like that, and that's being taken from the rights perspective. But again, I think where this is going to is how that's going to happen if you write it with that kind of mind and that angle. It's not very a pro-trans approach at all. And Sam's point, which we're about to see, is that I love it, is that in a climate like this, when trans rights are being actively, I'm not even going to say attempted to be taken away, they're being taken away. Trans people are being unalived in the streets. There are countries banning that way of life. There are calls from Michael Knowles for the eradication of transgenderism. It's a phase. No. And so from Sam's point of view, and what I get from this call, and I won't take too long because I know that this is a long call, but is that you can't give the floor to someone that is asking for a fair say in such a thing, the eradication of a minority of people, hold on, let's look at the small cases where it didn't go exactly as fast. It's no, let's not give that space and this floor. And for Sam to be so angry and irate, I think was really lovely to see. It really shows unadulterated allyship and an ability for someone to stand up for what they believe, not just because of the clout and the clicks and the YouTube algorithm, because he generally does believe it, and that's amazing to see.
Because I don't, because no, it's not even there's a specific, no, because it's not even that there's a specific thing that I take issue with, because that in some ways is exactly what the like indicative of the same problem. And I will do this. Is like, I know that you feel that you are just writing stuff that you think is accurate, very technically accurate, that your issue was in insisting and in highlighting this clip that no one had seen really until you promoted it. That in the words saying that when Matt said your lies were cited by Republican attorney generals, for whatever reason, when we did this email exchange and you put out a little clip of it, you said conservatives. I was confused by that because maybe I thought you were talking about something different. But my issue with what you do, okay, is best summed up in this analogy. And again, this is an analogy that's extreme, but it makes the case, is that back in 2004, there was a writer who wanted to argue, and you remember what was happening in 2004, 2005 in Iraq. Maybe it was before your time, I'm not sure. Who wanted to argue that there is nuance in the context of the torture debate. And by, sort of showing that within the context of the torture debate, there were nuanced instances where the idea of saying that torture is bad is inaccurate because there were nuanced instances where that was okay. And I think the headline was in defense of torture. And it was published on the Huffington Post at a time where
that's completely grotesque.
Yes, I'm sure I use this example because I knew you would think it was grotesque. But why is it grotesque? Because this writer claimed that, like, look, I don't want to talk, I'm not trying to talk over you, but can you just give me something to latch onto, a problem you have with my work, not with the work of someone. Well, I'm explaining it to you. You don't want to engage in it, I will explain it to you. The reason why it's
grotesque. I'm trying to engage in it.
Okay. The reason why it's grotesque to me in that instance is because it's one thing to sort of like create a thought experiment where you could argue there are instances where torture is a legitimate choice. But it is another to do it.
Torture is not a legitimate, but torture is
I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are, Jesse. In fact, no, Jesse, I am using torture as an example so that you will understand my problem with your writing. I know that you think torture is abhorrent. That's why I'm using this as an example. There is no doubt in my mind that you agree with me totally on this perspective of torture. But let me finish so I can explain to you
my actual work.
I'm going to
my work.
Okay.
Okay, you'll get to it, I guess.
I will. I promise. This is much quicker. I'll be done by now. In promoting that, in that instance, in a moment when torture is on the front pages of the news, regardless of whether there was merit to the philosophical argument about the value of torture, which I would agree, and I'm convinced that you would think is abhorrent, period. What that article does is it gives cover for people who were promoting torture in places outside of Huffington Post. The writer is basically positing that they have no impact on this public debate, because I believe that if you are writing in this manner and you are promoting ideas in this manner in public, then you must take responsibility not just for the specific content as the letters, but its impact and how it's heard and how it's used in a political struggle that is going on. And I suggest that when you say the Republicans, AGs, who cited my material in the Atlantic, did so and twisted it in a way that it meant something different than it did, that at the very least, you would realize that you are being used as a means to attack trans people and to attract and to attack.
But that's why 4 days after they put that brief out, I did a Substack post saying they're lying about my work.
I'm glad that you did a Substack post. In fact, that same torture guy.
Sam, just quickly, I just want to add some context because Reactigate is real, and I don't just want to sit here and watch a clip for 20 minutes. So to sum up basically Sam's point, I guess, if in case it's necessary, if people are kind of half listening or doing some other stuff, Sam is making the correlation between the kind of torture article, a political time in which that is a debate ongoing, and giving any kind of, we hear this a lot, the devil's advocate, the kind of hearing both sides, giving a platform to two arguments. We see this so much, and I see it, to be honest, as civility politics. And the more I continued this channel, the more I've looked into it, the less respect I have for giving two sides of an argument the same flaw. I'm sorry, I call me controversial. There are a lot of centrist takes that I have a real problem with. When one side is saying, we don't agree with that group of people, we don't want them to exist. And the other side is saying, we just out here vibing. I'm sorry, I like nail polish and long hair. And then some centrist in the middle, bits like, well, maybe they both have a point. Like, well, maybe they don't, actually. And maybe one is dangerous and one is perfectly safe. Let's have that conversation. Maybe you having a centrist view is more dangerous than the one side. I'm sorry. And so, for Jesse Singal's side here to say, there is this obscure story about a detransitioner, there's this obscure data, there's this clip, there's this one case, there's this anomaly. To use that and put that into the light is also saying that it puts a shadow against everything else. Why don't we see one particular clip of a very successful, happy trans person that is living their life and is unharmed and does no harm to the world and pays taxes and gets on with their day, huh? Why is that not being brought to light by the New York Times? Why isn't there a 2-hour documentary about that from the Daily Wire? Well, because it pushes their narrative to do the opposite. And so anyway, I won't go on too long, but Sam Seder is coming in hot and fast with his opinion of, you can't, also again to talk about the content creation side as well, you can't just go into this. I think this is what there's so much done for like clicks and clout and like finding the edge, especially in journalism. But there is a responsibility to that, and you cannot just pretend that you didn't have the intention or the understanding that this might be taken from a certain dangerous side or a dangerous angle.
Has a whole page on his, at that time, I think it was Medium, as to why this is being misinterpreted. But do you know how many people saw the HuffPost thing versus saw that Medium thing? This is what we call in sales a funnel. I don't know why I say we, because I'm not in sales, but I read enough about it.
You're saying that a lot of people saw this fairly obscure brief over a technical aspect of Affordable Care Act enforcement. That's your argument, that was like a viral Huffington Post article?
Are you suggesting in any way, Jesse, that your work hasn't been cited over and over again by people saying, like, even the liberal Jesse Singal says that there's something problem here?
I mean, so the problem is that, with all due respect, I explained to you in the email like exactly what they did. My article said
you didn't even say, when I said Republican AGs, I specifically asked you. Now, you didn't publish this part of the email. You only published like the first line of it for whatever reason. But I asked you, when I wanted to clarify this and catching up on it, what was defamatory? Because I think your words were straightforwardly defamatory about Matt Leck saying that your lies were cited by Republican AGs. And then you wrote back something about a tweet exchange you had with Matt about conservatives. For whatever reason, you wouldn't acknowledge that this Republican AG thing was.
No, but we're referring to the same legal document. And
I didn't know that because you didn't say anything about that legal. I can read the email right now if you want to clarify that.
Sam, could I get
it seemed really manipulative of you to pretend that you had explained this to me and saying, when whatever the tweet storm that you were trying to get going, when in fact I said Republican AG and you said conservatives, some conservatives.
Sam, I think you're a little bit trying to talk over me because I'm making a very basic point here.
Okay, go ahead.
Respond or not.
You have the floor.
Okay. I emailed you. I pointed out that this brief said...
No, you did not use the words brief. I did not use. You did not use the words brief, Jesse. That's why.
I mean, Jesse, if you want to get specific, you got specific about the fact that a viewer wrote in and said that you cited one part of this written document by that woman. What was her name? Jamie Reed. That you didn't cite. Yep. And so, if we want to be specific, then be specific about what you said to Sam in this email.
Okay, let me read this because you're now claiming that you said the word brief or you said the word attorney because I asked you.
Hey, sorry, we've been talking about the same doc.
The dolls are fighting. I have to say, I love how Sam was like, okay, I'm going to let you talk, but also he came in thick and fast. I love this. But I am really actually here for this again, and I state my case that I think there's a lot of responsibility for people that have a channel and a platform to be civil, and I understand that to an extent. Let's be respectful, because I think that says a lot for people that if you're watching and you haven't quite made up your mind yet, and you're coming in with an open mind, seeing someone have a respectful debate argument can, in some ways, help you give them time and listen, and I understand that, right? But there are also times when that can be, I would say, net harmful. And I say net harmful because there's much more nuance to that. But right now, I have a lot of respect for Sam to not give this man as much space, to be honest. There are other spaces. He has his own platform. He can have his say. He can clip this and do a reaction video and moan about how Sam Seder didn't let him talk, whatever he wants to do. But this is Sam Seder's channel. This is the Majority Report. He has called in. And apparently it says later on it's kind of inferred that he kind of slipped through the cracks and that the call wasn't expected. So it's like, if someone were to come on my channel now and start saying things, it is my space and I get to decide whether I have that space. There are some comments that I just outright have to delete because they are just harmful. And even if I want to interact with them, it is my responsibility as a platform content creator to do that. So I have a really lot of respect for how Sam and Emma deal with this, and I would say they give him a lot of space and rhetoric to answer, but Jesse isn't actually here for a decent debate. Anyway, let's watch a little bit more.
Oh, we've been talking about the same document all the time, and you can either.
Well, I didn't know this.
Why the
I didn't know this. Jesse, I don't know your stuff from Adam. I don't care. I said I'm unclear. Let me make this clear.
You don't know my stuff.
I'll tell you what. We'll put this up because we'll put this up.
Oh, you do know my stuff.
No. We will put up our exchange because you're mischaracterizing our exchange right now, just like you did on Twitter.
I know, but you won't let me. I'm happy to explain it.
Well, no. I get it now because I've had to go back and try and understand what you were talking about.
Now you get it. Okay.
But you are even in this call mischaracterizing our exchange. And this is what you do. This is my experience of you. You keep saying that people misunderstand me and Sam said he was going to do this and this and that. And you're the one who creates the confusion. I don't know if you do it on purpose or if you do it because you're trying to obscure some agenda. I don't know. I don't care.
I think it's more that I sort of cleared this up 4 years ago, but none of you guys have read that post, and you keep referring to it. And that's why I'm just trying to get
I don't care about that post.
30 seconds. No, I know you don't care about it, but I'm just trying to get 30 seconds to explain what happened, which you can choose not to grant me that 30 seconds, but just...
I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
Okay. They cited my work to say that gender medicine doesn't help trans adults. My work described that gender medicine as life-saving, and it quoted multiple trans adults who found it life-saving. So you can't read my article.
How late in the piece, Jesse? Have you heard of the principle of journalism where essentially you're supposed to...
Emma.
No. How late into the piece?
Top of the piece.
How late into the piece, Jesse?
Jesse, I'm looking at this section that you sent me about for sure trans-affirming care. This paragraph. There's 3,500 words in front of it. The section that you clipped for me.
Yeah. So you would think that the more obvious point, just basic rules of journalism. Well,
I know you're a journalist. No. Was it 3,500 words in, or was it at the top of the piece?
Yeah, which part?
It was 3,500 words into a 12,000 word piece, so it was near the top.
It was in the top 25% of a 12,000 word piece. Okay.
Right. As opposed to, I mean, Jesse, have you not in your work
Outside of 25%.
emphasize certain specific cases that are outside of the trend of the overwhelming data that shows that gender-affirming care for youth is effective and helps reduce suicidal ideation and is important, and that the sister myth essentially is a small edge case? Have you not focused on that a disproportionate amount versus the overwhelming other elements of data that I just described?
Oh, but what you just said isn't true. There isn't overwhelming evidence these treatments.
There is. I'm looking. Okay, have you read the Journal of Pediatrics and their clear results on this front, where they looked at children
Yeah, you're talking about a Jack Turban paper. I've written 2.
Okay, just jumping in and then going to contextualize just what happened and then talk about what we saw earlier in the stream. For anyone that wasn't there, we looked at another latest landmark study about how gender-affirming care reduces suicidality by over 55% or 55%. And so this is what I mean about giving a centralist or someone that's trying to list all arguments the floor. Definitely we can see Sam Seder's being sharp here for sure, but Jesse Singal is not here in good faith, and you can hear how he deflects certain questions because he knows that he's not going to come across very well. Talking about how he put in his article that trans-affirming care can be beneficial to adults, 3,500 words into a 12,000 word article. That's all well and good, that being in the top 25%, but let's give some thought to the fact that that's 3,500 words in. Most university essays that I used to write had to be 3,000 words maximum. 12,000 words is the size of a thesis. So when you're talking about trans-affirming care, to get over 3,000 words in before you mention, oh, by the way, this can have some positive effects on adults. 3,500 words, you clearly have an agenda. I'm sorry. Regardless as to whether I don't care if it's 1 million words long and that puts it in the top 1%. If you haven't mentioned in 3,500 words that there are actually cases that trans-affirming care can be good for trans people, then you are dangerous. You are outright dangerous. I think that's my stance on it, really. And I can tell, to be honest, I feel that if Emma and Sam are both on that point, then I feel like at least I'm in the right direction. Anyway, but he's calling in good faith, allegedly. Let's look at the stats that Emma just has as well in front of her. So much love and respect for Emma. Love.
No, so you're talking about Christina Olsen's paper, not Jack Turban's paper. I apologize. Christina Olsen's paper took a group of kids who transitioned early, social transition.
Yep.
She found that 93% of them 5 years in were still in that socially transitioned role, but none of them were diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So you can't compare that to the question I'm interested in, which is whether these treatments help alleviate gender dysphoria, because we don't know if the kids in Olsen's sample had gender dysphoria.
Okay. Oh my god. I'm going to get angry. I think, Emma says what is the main point here is that, hold on, you've just blown it out of proportion. But let's just talk about what he's just said. In this study, they took a group of kids that socially transitioned, and they found that 93% of them maintained that same, I'm going to say persona, gender and everything. 93%. So out of 100, 93 of them. And Jesse has the gall to say that we can't see, they weren't diagnosed with gender dysphoria, so we can't see the correlation as to whether that affected their gender dysphoria. Let me just throw something crazy in there. Maybe they didn't have the gender dysphoria because they were living in the gender that they had socially transitioned to. So how would they get diagnosed with something? That's A, ridiculous, B, outdated as well, because the idea that transgenderism is a mental illness is outdated, thank you to modern understanding of this. And so basically that's why this is a bad faith argument, because he's saying, well, hold on, we don't know how many of them were actually gender dysphoric. Well, I'll give you a hint. The 93% of them that stayed as their preferred gender probably we would class as transgender then. Duh. It goes as well. If you apply that logic to they have to have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, And this care has to be applied to someone that has that exact diagnosis and no one else. You're also forgetting that socially, gender is a construct, it's a social construct. And all of the time, we see people in society playing with that, whether they are transgender or not. You can have a tomboy, which is a born natal girl that is boyish. You can have a femme guy, which is a natal male that's just effeminate. Like, gender is a liquid thing in society that we have created. So when you want to apply a specific mental illness, gender dysphoria, giving it the name, to people before you allow them to play with their gender and socially transition and change anything, you are gatekeeping the ability for them to be themselves. And this is what we saw with the banning of socially transitioning in schools, and this is why it's unemployable, because the UK government were told it was unlawful by the Attorney General for England and Wales, because you can't just tell a whole bunch of kids you're not allowed to wear different clothes, change your name, cut your hair short, or play with makeup. You have to just be exactly as we see you as gender to be, because that is impossible. So this is the level of a bad faith argument. And for someone that's saying that they are a scientific journalist and very well educated and they've done this for 10 years, they are missing some basic facts. It really gets me. Anyway, let's continue.
You're using outdated terminology to talk about children who are already socially transitioning and showing that that is effective and they're consistent after that 5-year period in their transition.
This is just an objective matter of fact. What you just said, this is
pedantic. Do you believe that? No, it is. Do you believe that gender affirming care works and is overwhelmingly effective with children? Do you believe it?
I am with the 5 European countries who have looked into this question closely, and all of them are like, we don't know yet, we need more data. So no, it's not established.
Okay.
It is established.
All right, well, so you don't believe
it's
it. No, but you just changed the question that she asked you.
I'm not
There's
sure
no
yet.
doubt. Listen.
I have to go
we are aware. I am aware that the Dutch protocol is no longer being used in these 5 European countries, and that they're looking at more data. I'm also aware of like hundreds of situations where Europeans and Americans have different protocols. And part of that process in which there is some broad agreement is that doctors work this stuff out. You clearly have an agenda, and you recoil at the idea that people suggest that you have an agenda. Now, you think that your agenda is founded in a science that is not available to other people. And I'm suggesting, I have no problem with doctors.
It's totally available to you guys.
No, you're not. It's available to me now.
It is completely obscure to us, because as you've said on your show.
Sorry, you guys are talking one at a time. Can you just talk one at a time? I can't hear my city speaker.
Because as you've said on your show, we're doing this just to A, make cash, and B, seen as more righteous than other people. I've listened to at least part of one of your shows. And so I know that you said this. I know you said this, Jesse. I know that you feel this. Now, I do not attribute to you some type of intent. I don't know that you're making cash off this or what it is. I just see what the impact of what you do is, and I think it's reprehensible. And that's it.
Well, but I've already explained to you guys.
No, I'm not just talking about limited to.
The phrase of that was misinterpreted, and you changed the debate into, okay, you did say that, but it wasn't high enough.
Hey, listen, Jesse, I didn't say anything in the beginning. I wouldn't have known about this, and no one would have known about it, except for your insistence that it was straightforwardly defamatory, that you had been cited by Republican AGs, and that what had been cited was lies. And you said to me in an email it was straightforwardly defamatory. I got news for you. You don't know what the word straightforwardly means, and I'm not sure you know what the word defamatory means.
I never claimed to be. It could just be you guys are smarter than me on this stuff, but do you think the sentence in that legal brief accurately describes my work? That's all I'm asking.
What sentence?
I don't know.
The sentence that there's no consensus that transition alleviates gender dysphoria. Do you think that accurately describes my
quote? Was that quote from your.
Hold up, it's right there. We've been.
Was that quote from your piece?
Well, Jesse, then let me just ask you directly once again. Do you believe that the established standards of care in the United States are effective and should be implemented to help children as they begin to transition in their youth?
The standards of care say that kids should get like 1 to 2 years of therapy before they transition. So that might be too conservative, but it's something like that.
Okay, so what's the issue?
So then what's the problem?
Those are the new standards of care. The question is whether people are following them.
Okay, well, you know what?
I doubt Emma.
But the evidence that you've shown, the Jamie Reed whistleblower.
Look at how he's just completely changed the question. He's just completely avoided the question, and he doesn't want to give an answer as to whether trans-affirming care helps or whatever, helps trans people. He's just completely changed it to, well, you know, they need 2 years of therapy, and are people really getting that therapy? We can't know. That is a bad faith argument. Because he doesn't want to say no, and he doesn't want to say yes. That's a bad faith argument. I think this is nearly finished. Let's get to the end. It's ridiculous.
Whistleblower, bro, has been discredited over and over again, and you wrote a whole write-up about that.
She hasn't been discredited?
Not been discredited?
Hold on, a couple things. Guys, one thing at a time. Emma.
Wait, she hasn't been discredited?
Can we finish it?
Well, can I just be clear on what you said?
I'm happy to talk to you.
She has not been discredited.
Let me finish my point.
Okay, wait.
Okay, let me finish.
You just said something. I just want to. I was talking over you. I just want to make sure you said it. Jamie Reed has not been discredited in your mind.
I'm happy to address this. I just want to finish up the thing about the standards of care because I think that's super important, actually.
You didn't say this. I'm just curious about what you said just a couple of seconds ago on this show.
I'd like to finish.
Hey, dude, I got a big guest that's coming up in a minute.
Yeah. Has Jamie Reed been discredited or no?
Emma, it sounds to me that you think kids should get 1 to 2 years of therapy.
Has Jamie Reed, who was not intimately involved.
She has not been discredited.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
Okay.
That's interesting because we've got to run, but people can look this up. There have been lies over and over proven that she has put out there, which you took at face value.
When you come on the show, can we just get a little bit more specific about the SSD stuff?
Honestly, dude, I mean, look, I want to engage in good faith, and we have now had this conversation, and to be honest with you, like, I don't back down from anybody, but I really think you should just have a trans person on or an activist or someone of that kind, because I cover a bunch of issues on this program. We cover politics on a daily basis from different perspectives. And
okay, so you're backing out, though, is what you're saying.
Sure. I to be honest with you,
based upon your original complaint to me, I will, as a boss, I will suspend her if she goes on your show.
We had a back and forth over email. We couldn't.
You called
find
the manager.
time, and
you didn't get the response.
I don't want to give this more life.
You're backing out. It's unfortunate. I was hoping to have you on because
Jesse, if that's what you want to hang your hat on, have a good rest of the week, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, we appreciate the call, Jesse.
Yeah, couldn't care less. Thank you. Bye.
The end bit where Emma's like, couldn't care less, thank you, bye. I love that level of like energy. That's the energy I'm bringing into autumn 2023. How about you at home? Let me know, because we love to see it. I have so much time for how they dealt with this, and honestly I'm just not here for the constant push towards civility politics when clearly Jesse Singal here is not here in good faith and is not adhering to the same level of civility politics, because he's not answering the questions. He's changing what is being asked of him. He's deliberately misguiding the conversation, and they are just too good at it. Like, and I love that. I have so much time. Like, I have so much respect. So I didn't really know too much about who Jess was. I've heard about the articles and stuff slightly, but for this is like, I think this is something I'm going to put my hands to as well. Like, I'm learning as I go, and I'm growing with this platform of this channel, Matriarch Type. If you haven't, please do subscribe and join me every week for these live streams. But yeah, I have a really lot of respect for how they dealt with this call. Watching it now a second time, you can really see how Jesse is just not there in good faith, and it sounds like he made a complaint. Em was gonna go on the show, but he like rang in anyway impatiently, I guess. That kind of is the vibe. And he probably regrets having done so. And I guess, again, it just comes down to the same core argument of you can't send something out into a vacuum in this political climate with regards to anything that has an anti-trans narrative, because it will get picked up, it will get misconstrued, and it will affect people's lives. And this isn't just to people talking about articles and information and data. This will affect legislation, it will affect livelihoods, hate crime rates, suicidality, as we've seen. It will affect so many things. So you can't just sit back as a person putting this information out there and be like, oh well, I didn't know that they were going to take it and use it and quote it and stuff. That's lazy. And that's outright a lie as well, I think, I would say. So really interesting clip from the Majority Report as ever. It's kind of long, but I'm really glad that I found it within the live stream, because I don't think this has been clipped out on the YouTube channel either, just yet anyway, at the point of this live stream, unless I'm mistaken. So fantastic to see them deal with this. And I have a lot of respect for Emma knowing her boundaries and saying, I don't want to be on your show. We've had this conversation. There's nothing really to gain in doing so. I have a really lot of respect for that. Let me see if I can get my mic on. I have a lot of respect for her for doing so, and I think that I would be the same really. If there's nothing to gain, then why should you? Oh, we have another stamp. Hello. We have another stamp from John. Thank you so much. Lol, the energy for autumn 23. Haha, nice. Thank you so much. I hope you're bringing that energy into autumn as well. You are a star, and I'm going to give you a star stamp. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. I think this was your second stamp of the day. Bless you. Thank you very, very much. That is the energy we're bringing into autumn. It's going to be my new seasonal slogan, and I'm going to say that very often. Thank you so much for another stamp. Bless you. You're just too good to me, all of you. You're just too good to me. You're too good to me. John is a hero. Thank you so much. Well, what do you all think in the chat? We've got 5 minutes while I finish my coffee. About this clip. Did I miss any points? Was there anything else that you wanted to say? We'll have a little mini debrief before we call it there for the week. Fantastic clip by the Majority Report as always. So much love for Sam and Emma, and I would just say as well, it really does show in times like this that they are not just doing what they're doing for the topical clout of this. They really are allies. They really do care about the trans community, and as someone like me who grew up without someone that actively cares about trans people around me, and I had to find that within myself, and that did come with a certain dose of internal transphobia and not wanting to be how I am. Like, to find these role models now has changed my life entirely, and it's given me a sense of self-love and self-worth that, like, most cis people take for granted, but also is imperative to my well-being. And so I want to platform this, I want to add to this, I want Matriarchetype as a channel to be this, because, like, trans people deserve to live. That's just the obvious thing that I have to sadly say. Anyway, we have had so many super chats and super stamps. Thank you so much. I really love that system. Let me know if you think it can be improved, or if you want to see me do anything differently. But I think it's a great way to get to chat to some of you, because I don't always see the chat scrolling, especially when I'm reacting to a clip, and it's great to know that I can definitely chat to you if you super chat. Thank you to everyone who has Mabibas. We saw Harry, John, Marcy, Moif. Thank you so much. Just from memory, I think I can actually see them instead of just trying to remember. My memory ain't what it used to be. Yes, we had Mabibas, John, Moif, Mary, Harry, Marcy, and another one from John. Thank you so much. Yeah, please do subscribe if you haven't already. I do this every week. A little bit of an update for the channel. So I am traveling Japan. My mum is coming to visit from the UK, and I will be busy traveling around Japan. But I will try and do these live streams every week. But bear in mind, I usually prepare for them during the week, keeping up to date with, like, the internet stuff going on, which is more time consuming than one might think. and I won't have as much time to do that. So I might be kind of live reacting, blind reacting to a lot of stuff. If so, then I apologise in advance if it's a bit more raw, but it might be more interesting, might be funny. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, if you didn't catch this whole thing, scroll back now and watch the rest. Otherwise, I will be clipping it out into episodes to come out throughout the week. Keep that algorithm happy and juicy. Please check them out if you can. Otherwise, check out my Discord if you want to get involved with our little community. And I have a Patreon if you want to join and support the channel as well. Thank you so much to everyone that joined me for this live stream. I love you all so much. Thank you, extra thank you for the super chat and super stamps. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay positive. It can be difficult at times, but if you need to reach out on Discord, we will have a chat and I will do what I can. Have a lovely week. I love you all very much. Take care of yourselves. Bye. Mwah. Love.